Morning, I'm KC. This is Keystone Curiosity, where we talk about all things unique to the state of Pennsylvania. Today's episode is going to be about the National Watch and Clock Museum. Located on Poplar Street in the town of Columbia, the National Watch and Clock Museum is the largest collection of horological pieces in the entire continent. Throughout history, horology, or the study and measurement of time, has been of the utmost importance to mankind, even before the invention of timepieces. Over millennia, the act of measuring time has been pivotal in everything from understanding the Earth's circumference in ancient Alexandria to maritime navigation in the Age of Exploration. During those centuries, the methods and tools of timekeeping would develop from sundials and general terms like midday to the clocks that we are familiar with today. An appreciation for the amount of effort in creating these instruments led to three men in Columbia, Pennsylvania starting a club in 1943 they called the Watch Collectors Club. This would change slightly when the watch collectors began welcoming clock collectors as well, and the National Association of Watch and Clock Collectors was born. Initially, the collectors would gather and discuss in members' homes. One of these, the secretary, Earl Strickler, would become the roots of the grandest time museum in the United States. In 1952, he had turned his basement, and later the first floor of his house, into a private museum for the members of the NAWCC. Their membership would continue to rise, and a few years later, the collectors would purchase a separate building to serve as their headquarters on the land where the museum stands to this day. The 1970s would see the rise in membership continue, and an acquisitions committee was appointed to solicit donations for a true museum, and not merely a large private collection. And it worked far better than anybody had anticipated, as a few years later they would need a much larger space for all of their exhibits. Watches, clocks, and a plethora of tools were generously given by the members of the NAWCC, and a vast collection of books and research material had been amassed, forcing both the library and the newly established museum to double in space by 1976. As the number of museum pieces neared 1,000, the collectors decided to share their trove of artifacts, and on November 6, 1977, the National Watch and Clock Museum would open its doors to the public. The museum would owe its success to the generosity of the members of the NAWCC, as their collection of exhibits had grown from 1 to 6,000 within the first 10 years, nearly all of which were due to donations. But that would all change in 1988 with the discovery of a monumental relic that had been hidden away for the past 30 years. The first item the museum would actually purchase is known as the Engel clock. Weighing in at just over half a ton and being the size of 2 piano crates, this monument of a clock was built by a local Pennsylvanian from Hazleton in 1878. Doing everything from tracking moon patterns to the constellations of the zodiac, this intricate marvel would tour the eastern United States for 70 years, dazzling crowds with animated figures of Jesus Christ and the 12 Apostles, as well as Molly Pitcher and a parade of Continental soldiers. And yes, it also kept time. Strangely enough, this massive clock would disappear in 1951 until its discovery in a barn in New England and subsequent acquisition by the museum. As it is with most things found in barns, the Engel clock would need extensive repairs, which took a team of master clockmakers just under a year to restore it to its former glory. It would be put on display at the museum on September 19, 1989. The 1990s would see the NAWCC membership peak at nearly 40,000 members, prompting their headquarters to get one final expansion and renovation to its current form. Covering over 400 years, and with international pieces from as far away as Japan and France, the collection of the National Watch and Clock Museum would expand to its current numbers of over 13,000 exhibits, more than can be displayed at any one time, making it the largest collection of timepieces in the North American continent. The Library and Research Center would also continue to expand. Currently, it is the second largest collection of horological information in the United States, behind only the Library of Congress. And if I'm honest, they do a damn good job of portraying all of this to someone like me who doesn't know the first thing about this kind of stuff. From grandfather clocks to Kit Kats, pocket watches to Batman, I have never seen a wider arrangement of any single topic before. The amount of effort putting into selecting and putting on these displays is staggering, as the museum has put on not just the clocks themselves, but also the tools and machinery used to create and service these instruments throughout time. Placards are placed alongside these displays, detailing their importance and use, while interactive exhibits highlight how the engineering changed within these mechanical marvels and why such developments were necessary. But perhaps one of the most unique parts of the museum is its scavenger hunt. Hidden throughout the museum is 20 stuffed animals bearing the names of important figures within the industry to test the eyes of those paying attention in this one-of-a-kind way of engaging the museum's more youthful members. I only found 7, and if you've been paying attention, they've all made an appearance in this video. Regardless of one's horological knowledge, I truly felt that the National Watch and Clock Museum does an amazing job of riding that fine line between introductory information and details that more educated folk can still take something away from. Point in case on that, I ended up taking my father with me, who had studied at the Watch and Clock Collector's School across the street, and even he enjoyed himself, stating that there were still a few things that he learned despite his previous education. They also hold events to showcase what they do, as well as to get involved in the community around them, including a Hops and Clocks beer tasting event held near Halloween. Now, I won't deny it, a clock museum is kind of a stuffy topic for most people, but I still suggest you give it a chance, as I found it to be far more interesting than even I expected it to be. In my case, I love seeing that people have a passion for these kinds of things, and after seeing the inner workings and understanding how and why the engineering developed around these intricate instruments, I couldn't help but recognize the amount of effort and passion that has been invested into them throughout the centuries. With the National Watch and Clock Museum resting about an hour away from either Downingtown or Gettysburg, and the plethora of things to do along the Susquehanna River itself, it's never been quite this easy to create a memorable day trip to the area, especially when you include a visit to this timeless memorial to time itself. That's going to wrap it up for today's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. As per the usual, if you have any suggestions or where you'd like to see me go next, feel free to leave them in the comments below. In the meantime, hit that like and subscribe so that you can receive notifications about anything else near the National Watch and Clock Museum or all across the state of Pennsylvania itself. But in the meantime, y'all have a good one.